Somewhere on the edge of a city that never sleeps, behind a wall of steel and glass that stretches nearly half a kilometer in every direction, something extraordinary is happening. Something that, depending on who you ask, is either the greatest engineering achievement in the history of modern manufacturing or the beginning of the end of human work as we have always known. The building itself gives nothing away. No signs, no crowds of workers clocking in at dawn, no cafeteria lines, no parking lots filled with cars. Just a vast, silent structure humming with invisible intelligence, operating at a scale and a speed that the human mind struggles to fully comprehend. Inside these walls, machines are building machines. Robots are assembling robots. And an artificial intelligence system so sophisticated it monitors itself, learns from itself, and continuously rewrites its own operational logic, is running everything. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, without stopping, without sleeping, without a single human hand touching the product.
I'm standing outside the main entrance to what engineers and industry insiders are calling one of the most advanced manufacturing facilities ever constructed on Earth. And I have to tell you, boys, even from out here, even before you step inside too, the scale of this place is genuinely difficult to process. The building is absolutely enormous. The walls don't end. The roofline disappears into the morning fog. There are no workers walking through these gates. There are no shift changes. There is barely any sound, just this deep, almost subsonic hum coming from somewhere deep inside. And we're about to go in.
To understand why this factory exists, you have to go back to a breaking point that had been building for decades across the global manufacturing industry. By the early 2020s, the warning signs were everywhere. Labor costs in traditional manufacturing economies were rising faster than productivity gains could offset them. Supply chains that had been constructed over 30 years of globalization were fracturing under the pressure of geopolitical instability, pandemic disruption, and a fundamental mismatch between what factories needed and what the human labor market could deliver. The numbers were stark. Manufacturing facilities across North America, Europe, and even parts of East Asia were reporting that they simply could not find enough skilled workers to operate at the scale modern demand required. Turnover rates on factory floors were reaching levels that made long-term production planning almost impossible. And the cost of a single assembly error, one human mistake on a precision manufacturing line, was escalating into losses that ran into millions of dollars per incident. Something had to change, and then several of the world's largest technology and manufacturing conglomerates made a decision that would rewrite the rules of industrial production entirely.
I've just passed through the security checkpoint and into the main airlock corridor that separates the outside world from the production environment. The air pressure in here is slightly different. It's controlled, it's filtered, and I can already hear the sound changing villains. The ambient noise is transforming from natural environmental sound into something entirely. The corridor is long, and the walls are lined with monitoring screens showing live data feeds from inside the facility. Temperature, air quality, robot operational status, power consumption. And one number that keeps jumping out at me today, the real-time production output counter. It's moving so fast I can barely read the individual numbers. This place is producing at a rate that is genuinely hard to believe.
The engineering challenge was staggering. Building a fully automated factory is not simply a matter of replacing human workers with machines. If it were that simple, it would have been done everywhere decades ago. The real challenge, the terrifying, almost philosophical challenge, was building a system complex enough to perform the full cognitive and physical range of tasks that human workers bring to a production environment. Humans don't just lift and place. Humans perceiba, humans adaptado. Humans recognize when something is wrong and respond in real time with improvised judgment. A bolt that doesn't thread correctly, a component that arrives slightly out of specification, a conveyor belt that is beginning to vibrate at a frequency that suggests imminent mechanical failure. Human workers catch these things intuitively. They feel them, they hear them. And for decades, engineers believed that replicating that level of adaptive, embodied intelligence in a machine was either impossible or economically impractical. But then something happened that nobody expected.
I'm now inside the main production hall, and I am telling you, Tay, nothing I read before coming here prepared me for this. The space is cavernous. The ceiling is at least 20 meters above me. And stretching out in every direction, as far as I can see, are assembly lines. Hundreds of robotic arms moving, and every arm is fitted with sensors. Every arm knows exactly where it is in three-dimensional space to within fractions of a millimeter. There is not a single human being standing at these lines. Not one. The product moves continuously. It never stops. It never slows down. And the machines purr, these arms, these automated guided vehicles rolling silently between stations pro, they just keep going. It is simultaneously the most impressive and the most unsettling thing I have ever witnessed inside a manufacturing environment.
The predictive maintenance system represents one of the most economically significant innovations in the entire facility. In traditional manufacturing, unplanned mechanical failure is one of the largest sources of production loss and cost. A single major equipment failure on a high-throughput assembly line can halt production for hours, sometimes days, with financial consequences that run into millions of dollars per incident. The solution that traditional manufacturers used was scheduled preventive maintenance, replacing components at fixed intervals whether they needed replacing or not, which meant wasting resources on components that still had useful life remaining, while still occasionally missing failures that occur between scheduled maintenance windows. The AI-driven predictive system in this facility has effectively eliminated both of those problems simultaneously. Components are replaced exactly when the data says they need to be replaced, not before, not after. Maintenance interventions are scheduled during periods of minimum production impact. And the system's failure prediction accuracy, after 2 years of operational data accumulation, is now running at better than 97%. The facility has not experienced a single unplanned production stoppage in the last 14 months. In manufacturing terms, that is not just an improvement, that is a transformation.
I need to tell you about the humanoid robots, because this is the part of the facility that stopped me completely when I first saw it. At the far end of the main assembly hall, there is a section where the production tasks require a level of dexterity and spatial flexibility, and the solution that the engineering team has deployed here is genuinely extraordinary. These are bipedal humanoid robots, Hugh. Roughly human in scale, moving through the workspace the way a human They move with a fluidity that is initially almost comforting, and then, after a few seconds, becomes profoundly strange. They just work. Continuously. Precisely. Without any awareness whatsoever that I'm standing here watching them, because you keep expecting one of them to turn and look at you. They don't. It is the most viscerally powerful demonstration of what automation has become that I have ever witnessed in person.
The humanoid robotic platform represents the frontier of what is currently possible in industrial automation. And it is significant beyond the engineering achievement it represents, because the humanoid form factor solves a problem that has been at the heart of the automation challenge for decades. Traditional fixed robotic systems require the factory to be designed around the robot. The workspace, the component presentation, the tool access angles all have to be engineered to suit the physical constraints of the machine. A humanoid robot, by contrast, can be introduced into a workspace that was designed for human workers because it operates within the same physical envelope that human workers occupy. This means that the barrier to automation deployment drops dramatically. You do not need to rebuild the factory. You deploy the robot into the existing space. And as these platforms continue to improve, as their dexterity increases, as their sensory systems become more capable, as their AI decision-making becomes more sophisticated, The range of tasks that they can perform expands. The ceiling of what can be automated moves higher, and with it, the category of jobs that remain exclusively human becomes narrower.
As I prepare to leave this facility, I want to share one final thing that I observed that I think crystallizes everything about this place and what it represents. Near the main exit of the production hall, there is a small glass-walled observation room. And inside that room, there are 4 human beings sitting at workstations. They are the only human beings I have seen in proximity to active production during my entire time in this building. And I asked what they do. Their role, officially, is system oversight. They watch, they monitor, they are there for edge cases calm, for the scenarios so unusual that even the AI hasn't encountered them before. But the engineer who briefed me said something quietly devastating about this role. He said these 4 positions exist less because the system needs them, and more because the regulations require human oversight. In other words, pay. These 4 people are here because the law says a human has to be present, not because the factory needs them. The factory doesn't need them at all.
We are standing at a threshold, not a metaphorical threshold, a real, physical, tangible threshold that is being crossed right now, in facilities like this one, in dozens of locations across the globe, at a pace that is accelerating with every year that passes. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries displaced agricultural labor. The automation wave of the late 20th century displaced routine industrial and clerical work. What is happening now is different in kind, not just in degree. Because for the first time in history, the systems being deployed are not simply faster or stronger than humans at performing a specific, predefined task. They are adaptive. They are learning. They are becoming capable across a widening spectrum of physical and cognitive tasks that previously required human judgment, human perception, human improvisation. This is where the real challenge begins. Not the engineering challenge. That challenge is being solved spectacularly before our eyes. The challenge that awaits is the human one. The question of what work means in a world where an ever-growing fraction of the things that humans have traditionally been paid to do can be done faster, cheaper, more accurately, and continuously by machines that never tire, never complain, never need benefits, and never go home.
I'm walking out of this facility now, back into the daylight, back into a world where most people still go to work every morning. And I keep turning over in my mind what I just spent the last several hours inside. This factory is not a villain. It's not a mistake. It is a genuinely extraordinary piece of human ingenuity, built by brilliant engineers, solving a real problem. But it is also, undeniably, a harbinger, a signal. A very loud, very clear message about the direction that the world of work is moving in. And the message isn't coming slowly. It's already here.
The engineers who built this factory will tell you, with complete sincerity, that technology has always displaced old work while creating new work. That the jobs of tomorrow will be different from the jobs of today, just as the jobs of today are different from the jobs of 50 years ago. And they may be right. History suggests they might be right. But history also suggests that the transitions between eras of work are not gentle. They are wrenching. They are generational. They leave entire communities stranded on the wrong side of a technological divide, waiting for an economic adaptation that arrives too slowly and too unevenly to catch everyone who fell. Inside that factory, the machines are working flawlessly. Outside that factory, the question of what humanity does next remains unanswered. And perhaps that is the most important engineering challenge of all. Not how to build the machine, but how to build the world around it. Because the robots are not waiting for us to figure that out. They are already running, already learning, already building the future. And the only question that really matters now is whether we are building it with them or simply watching it be built without us.
One of the engineers told me, just before I left, that this factory is already obsolete, that the next generation of facility, already in design, will make this one look primitive. And he said it with pride, with genuine excitement, with the fire of someone who is in love with the problem they are solving. And I believed him completely. That's what made it land so hard.